I don't want you to have a mistaken impression about what I did and how I did it. Most of my work was not done on emails with my closest aides, with officials in the State Department, officials in the rest of the government, as well as the White House and people around the world.
Hillary Clinton today on Capitol Hill answering a question. She lost interest in Libya because she had fewer emails about the country in the months leading up to the attack. One of the many interesting exchanges I want to talk to the panel about tonight. Joining us from Washington, D.C., Republican strategist and former senior staff advisor to President George W. Bush, Bradley Blakeman. And joining us from Newsmax, New York, editorial director for Slant, Amanda Gutterman. And Bradley, we didn't have the explosive moments like we had back in 2013 when she said, "What difference does it make?" In fact, I want to get your read. It seemed like Hillary testifying today acted very differently than we've seen her in the past.
Yeah, perhaps she's taking her medication. She seemed like she was on Valium, very, very low-key, soft-spoken, sometimes hard to hear. But that's all calculated. The Clintons are true to their script. They know what they have to do. They know what they have to say. And I think for all indications so far today, Clinton has been able to survive this. If you're a Republican, you don't believe her. If you're a Democrat, you do. And if you're independent, I think you're tired of the whole thing.
You know, and I thought one of the more interesting moments was when she told the committee that she had lost more sleep over this issue than all of the committee members put together. Certainly a memorable moment. How do you think she did today?
I mean, first of all, I think it's important to remember that this started 17 months ago and that it's slated to go on into 2016. And at this point, no matter how she performs, and I agree with Bradley that she isn't swaying anyone on the left or the right, I think that this is going to be a longer investigation than the investigations into 9/11 and into Hurricane Katrina. I mean, I think that her performance isn't going to sway either people on the left or the right who believe her or don't believe her. I think it's just dragged on too long, and everyone's tired of this.
All right, Bradley, no one got swayed, but was there some new information released? What do you think about the Republican questioners? Did they lay out anything that you were interested in hearing this today?
Well, sure. Look, it just reinforced what I knew already, and that was the video was a ruse. It was to cover up the fact that Democrats, especially Hillary Clinton, the president, so close to a presidential reelect, did not want this to be other than a terrorist attack, something different. And they had a convenience of a video, and they used that for as long as they could until they were found out. Certainly, we know that Sidney Blumenthal was an advisor of Hillary Clinton, someone who the Obama administration did not care for at all. As a matter of fact, denied giving a job to in the State Department. And Hillary Clinton couldn't tell the Obama administration that Sidney Blumenthal was still advising her. So, look, these are things that reinforced what we knew already, if you believe the story, that she was trying to cover this up. And Democrats did not question her. They gave monologues and soliloquies. That's basically what happened today, and I suspect it'll continue until this hearing is done this afternoon.
All right, Bradley, I want to switch over to Amanda real quick and get her take on the latest numbers out of Iowa. New poll out of Iowa, Ben Carson at 28%, Donald Trump down to 20%. Is this Ben Carson resonating with Iowa voters or the start of a Donald Trump slide?
I don't think the big change is enough to say that this is a Donald Trump slide. He's been the front runner this whole time, and I think the media is just for the first time starting to come around to the fact that that Donald Trump is mounting a real presidential campaign. The numbers go up and down a little bit, but I think that Donald Trump has been in the lead for a while and that people are just finally starting to get used to him, not the other way around. Just responding quickly to one last thing about Benghazi, you know, speaking of ruses, even Kevin McCarthy, who was the front runner for a while for the speakership, you know, he's even said that the commission exists in order to damage Clinton's reputation going into 2016, not because of any real suspicion or any real data. So yeah, I mean, I think it's going to continue as long as it continues to chip away at her.
All right, Amanda, appreciate that. And Bradley, thank you. And you guys are going to stick around for another segment because if you saw in those poll numbers, Jeb Bush down to 5 percentage points. We had an exclusive interview with the former Florida governor. That's straight ahead right here on Newsmax Prime. We'll get the panel's reaction to it as well. Welcome back. As I mentioned earlier in the program, I'm filling in for J.D. Hayworth, who is out on assignment. J.D. sat down in an exclusive interview with presidential candidate Jeb Bush. Among many of the hot-button topics, J.D. asked the former Florida governor about his view on the Benghazi Committee hearings.
Benghazi is a big problem for Hillary Clinton, not so much because of the fact that it happened, although there were requests for security. It's how the government responded afterwards. And this hearing, I think, is important to get a sense of, could those 4 Americans been saved? Was there an effort, a serious effort to help? And then afterwards, when they tried to create the fog of war and call it, a response to a stupid, video, was that appropriate? I think. Look, this was in the midst of a campaign, and I think the Obama administration was trying to avoid a controversy that would hurt their re-election chances. And I think the 4 Americans that lost their life are deserving of a fair hearing on this.
And you can catch more of JD's interview with Jeb Bush next week here on Newsmax Prime. And we're back now with Republican strategist Bradley Blakeman and editorial director for Slant, Amanda Gutterman. Bradley, if there's one thing that's united the Republicans, it's going after Hillary Clinton. How do GOP presidential candidates like Jeb Bush respond to her testimony today?
Well, I think they call it as they see it. And we believe that Hillary Clinton engaged in the president in a cover-up of Benghazi. And if they would have been straight up with the American people, we would not have blamed the president or Hillary Clinton for the attack. What we have problems with is the cover-up, is blaming a video for this event that we know is now patently untrue. And the reason they did it is to save their political hides. That's, I think, something that will stick in the craw of many Republicans, independents, and yes, even some Democrats as we move into 2016.
Amanda, we've seen Jeb Bush go on the offensive against Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. This attack mode does not seem to be working. Back to the poll in Iowa, Jeb Bush right now polling at that state at 5% in 6th or 7th place. Why is it not working for Jeb Bush right now?
So right now the GOP field seems kind of divided into the serious candidates who are Jeb Bush and Marco Rubio, and the sort of outrage candidates, which are Donald Trump and Ben Carson right now. Ben Carson has been making denigrating statements about Muslims, talking about the Holocaust, threatening to boycott the 3rd GOP debate under the same circumstances as Trump. And Jeb Bush is going on the offensive, but in a much quieter tone, and I think that's the big difference.
And Bradley, final thoughts about that Iowa poll. Rubio in 3rd place. Do you think, as far as the establishment candidates go, that right now he's gaining momentum?
Well, yeah, I think Marco is, but I also believe that Iowa, if you look back in history, has not been a very good indicator as to who the nominee will be, and thus the president. So I would take Iowa with a grain of salt. I think as we move into New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, and Super Tuesday, we'll have a better idea as to who is actually catching traction.
And, of course, the big debate next week as well. Bradley Blakeman, Amanda Gutterman, thank you so much for the political panel today. Enjoyed the discussion. Now it's time to find out what's on your mind via social media. First, we hear from Austin, who watched Joe Biden announce that he's not running yesterday, and he writes, if Hillary is indicted and takes a fall, watch out for Biden reemerging as the savior of the Democratic Party. In fact, that may be the master plan in what's really going on. Next, we hear from William, who writes in about Paul Ryan getting support in his bid to become the next House Speaker. And he writes, with endorsements from Obama, Reid, and Boehner, why on earth would the House give him the speakership? I see a desperate establishment pulling out all the stops. They continue to prove how out of touch with the American people they really are. What are they thinking? And finally, we hear from Hal, who writes in about Donald Trump. And he writes, the Republican establishment is polling Trump supporters, asking them, what would Trump have to do to make you stop supporting him? My guess is that the top answer would be if he started to agree with the establishment. And if you have a comment, we want to hear from you. Send your comments in to newsmaxtv.com/comments. You can also send your comments via email, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm Rick Blackwell. JD is back tomorrow. Thanks for watching us right here on Newsmax Prime.